Up to the Q&A now. Do we have questions? Okay, perfect. How do I follow God's will even if it is hard?
Will even if it's hard. So everything starts with discipline in life. So not just in faith, but in everything that we do. Like, and all of you, I guess most people know this, right? Like if you do anything, does anyone, okay, show of hands. Anybody do sports? Hands up. Okay, not that many. Let's see what else. Anybody go to the gym? Yeah, a few more, right? Everybody put your hands up. Anybody do like martial arts? Okay, there's a few, all right. Jiu-jitsu, yeah. Okay, so anybody who does anything that you have to kind of work hard at, right? Whether it's sports, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's whatever, anything it is, it requires discipline, right? You got to get up and you have to be consistent with your training, right? And consistency is key. Even when you don't want to do it, you know, if you want results, you got to force yourself over and over and over again. And every little bit builds up to like a bigger kind of results at the end. It's the same thing with the spiritual life. People don't want to hear this, right? It's like the number one question I get, which is related to this, like in confession, I ask people, like people come and they usually have like a laundry list of problems, right? And my first question is, what's your prayer life like? And most of the time the question is, oh, what does that mean? Or not that great. I'm like, well, why not? Well, I only pray when I feel like it. I'm like, well, that's your number one problem right there. It's like, if you only go to the gym when you feel like it, you're never going to go to the gym. Mm-hmm. If you only, get up to go like train when you feel like it, you're never going to do it. It's the same thing with prayer. Prayer is hard work. Going to church is hard work. Giving to the poor is hard work. Forgiving people is hard work. It's all hard work. No one wants to hear that. Doesn't sound cool. Doesn't sound exciting. But the consistency, right? So the more you're consistent with your prayer life, with your fasting, with going to church, the more that builds resiliency within you, so that when bad things do happen in your life and you have to make difficult choices, they're easier to make when you've been making difficult choices every day, right? It's building resiliency and consistency over time.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is it comes down to a sense of purpose as well. Like when you can rewire why you're going through life in the first place, all of a sudden your challenges are positioning yourself a little bit differently, right? Like everything we do is hard, but the end goal is not always beneficial for us. Whereas when you're focused on your faith and your salvation comes first in your priorities in life and what you wake up thinking about, and when you're going through your day, you're thinking about it, it's going to be hard, but you're going to understand the benefits of that because they are long-term and maybe we can't see them right away, and sometimes you can see them right away, but it's rewiring what we understand to be hard as really good for us in the afterlife, eternally, right? Not worth taking communion.
I'm assuming it means what if I'm not worthy? I'm assuming.
What if I'm not worthy taking communion? This is exactly what Father said. If you think that there is anything you could do to earn the right or the entitlement to taking communion, but that's, one action. If there is anything you think you could do to earn your salvation or being made right in the eyes of God, you're starting from the wrong place, and actually a very dangerous place for you. Because and I'm so guilty of this, where you go to church on Sunday, you're like, check, perfect, done, my good deed for the day. You say a prayer before you go to sleep, half asleep, and you're like, okay, check, I did it anyways. Maybe you go to confession every once in a while and you're like, that feels really good to check off my list. That's a really bad habit that you have to completely rewire out of your brain, because if you think there is anything you could do to earn your salvation, you're not understanding what the point of salvation is in the first place and Christ's role in our lives and how he allows us to focus on him as opposed to ourselves.
And now I'm going to play devil's advocate. And I'm going to say, well, if that's true, Vienna, then why do I have to fast or confess in the first place? Why do any preparation to communion? Because I can just take communion anytime, right? That's not true either. Because everybody asks that question next. If nothing I can do is worthy and it's a gift, then I should just be able to go take communion anytime I want. And why is there any type of preparation? They seem to be contradictory, but they're not. It's just the way that we view it. So think of it this way. what am I doing when I'm receiving Holy Communion? I'm inviting Christ into my body, into the temple of the Holy Spirit, which is my body, right? So what happens when you have company at your house? What do your parents do? What does your mom do? Like somebody's coming over, we're going to clean. Make sure you clean. Like, you want to look, you don't want to, when you have company coming over, the respectful thing to do when that company comes over is to what? To clean, to prepare your home, to have hospitality, right? It's just what we do. It's a way we honor the guest who is coming, right? Your home's never going to be 100% clean. It's never. There's always going to be a little bit of dust somewhere. There's going to be a bit of dirt somewhere. You're going to shove everything in that closet that you think the company are not going to open, okay? So, but you do your best. And this is how we view Christ coming into us, right? Like, there's nothing we can do to make us worthy. Everything is a gift, but because I understand what I'm actually receiving, I do my best out of gratefulness, out of thanksgiving, to clean myself as much as possible so I can prepare a place for him. So this is what we do. We renew it over and over again. So every time I go to communion, I have a process of fasting. If I need to confess, I don't have to confess every single time, but I should be confessing regularly. I try to keep my home clean so that the King can come and visit with me and stay with me. And I'm not ashamed of what he's going to find, right? So it is a response to the enormity of the person who is coming to visit me. It's not that I am worthy. The King's coming anyways, no matter what. So I better get ready for him. That's the way we have to look at it. It's not like, did I do the checklist and now I go take communion? Oh, I didn't do the checklist, so I'm going to skip communion this week. It's more like, I'm an Orthodox Christian. I'm part of this family. I am obligated to be there on Sundays and communion, so I better get ready. King's coming. I don't care what you got to do. Just clean up. Get ready. If you look at it that way, like St. John Chrysostom says this, he says that, as Christians, we are obligated to commune at every divine liturgy. That doesn't mean you don't prepare. It means you better prepare because you're obligated to be there and do it. When you're not there, you're missing from the body of Christ and you're going to be missed. So it's a different mentality altogether. It's a shift in perception.
Mm-hmm. You should want to. When you understand the magnitude of, the guests, like Father Ted said, when you understand that the King is coming regardless, you should care about preparing properly, right? And that's just that shift in mindset. And resist the temptation of lust. What's the point of having a girlfriend or a boyfriend? Okay.
Take it away, Vienna.
Okay, this is obviously top of mind for so many people. So many, things that we do in our lives are oriented towards meeting somebody, going out, having a good time, dating, falling in love, getting married, and the whole vision, right?
Is that the vision?
I hope it's the vision.
Is it?
But yeah, in the right way.
That's the question.
That's the answer. Is what are your intentions, right? And so the question is, what's the point of having a girlfriend or a boyfriend? Well, it's the same question you can ask for anything in our lives. What's the point of anything? What's the purpose of anything that we do? And the answer should always be to glorify God, right? Everything in our lives, we are made in his image, we are made in his likeness, and we are made to glorify him. So whether that's through your relationships, whether that's through your job, whether that's through anything that you find yourself or situation you find yourself in, especially relationships, because that's the easiest one to get pulled out of that path and go down, the wrong way when you're dealing with, your ego and being a little bit transactional or selfish in relationships. What can I extract? What are the benefits to me? What am I getting out of this? It's a really, really dangerous path to be on. That's why as Orthodox Christians, we have to set our hearts straight. We have to get our relationships right with Christ first before we can then go and try and be in a relationship with somebody else. And something we've talked about at Bible study quite extensively when we did the marriage conversations was how, marriage in itself is a road to salvation. So you are actually responsible for helping somebody else on this path. You have to make sure that you are coming from the right place and having yourself strengthened as a Christian to help somebody else as well, right? So it's 100% about your intentions. It's okay to go out and, meet somebody and date and have a good time. I think some people have different opinions on that. But, I think it's really important to remember what it is that you're doing. And every time you are doing something without Christ at the center, it's a very easy opportunity to get led astray. And because relationships are such a big priority for so many people, I really challenge you to ask why that is so important to you, and understand maybe there's a gap in your heart that Christ can fill before somebody else can come and fill it in your life too. And that'll, kind of set everything straight into perspective when approaching relationships. Anything to add?
That was a good answer. Very generic. You avoided all the nitty-gritty stuff. Should I talk about the bad stuff? Okay. Can I say the S word in church? I don't know.
You're asking me? I don't know.
No one's thinking it. Okay. So, Katerina knows, because I've had this talk with the young adults as Prophet Elias, my Father Ted's guide to dating. So, a few thoughts. You can talk all night about this one. But along what Viviana said, that, yeah, you have to think about like ultimate goals and ultimate vision of your life. So when somebody asked this question earlier, we saw it earlier, it's like, what's the point of having a boyfriend, girlfriend? That's a good question. Like, what is the point of it in the first place? It's not, how do I have a boyfriend? Like, how do I navigate the relationship? What are the rules? What can I do and not do from an Orthodox point of view? All those nitty-gritty questions that people come to priests and ask, and it's really awkward, right? The question is at the top of your list, what is the point of dating in the first place? Like, why am I dating? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Now, different people have, Vienna says, well, the vision is, to meet somebody and fall in love and get married and have kids. That's not everybody's vision, guys and girls and ladies. That's not everybody's vision today. That's the problem. It may be the Orthodox vision. The Orthodox vision may say, yeah, I'm looking for a person who's going to be eventually my spouse, and I want to have a family with them, and I want to have the same faith with them, and I want to go to church, and I want to be united in Christ, and all these things. That's the Orthodox understanding. But most people don't have that understanding. Most people do not have that goal. They don't have that vision. And I'm not going to lie to you, most Orthodox don't have that vision. Most Orthodox today, cradle Orthodox, especially like ones who are just baptized into families, most Orthodox usually have a secular vision of relationships. What do I mean by secular? You guys know worldly, what everybody else's version of a relationship is, which is basically, I look for somebody that I'm attracted to, right? Usually it's sexual attraction, like romantic attraction, right? Before anything else. And then other things grow. And then, if we're compatible, whatever that word means, usually it means sexually compatible, doesn't mean anything else. Then we get to the point where we get engaged. And then at that point, when I'm kind of like, I'm 2-3 years in and I'm committed now, and there's emotions and there's feelings and all this kind of stuff. Now we got to start talking about religion. Oh, you're not baptized. Okay, now I've got to go to the priest and somehow force the poor person, usually it's the guy, but sometimes the girl, to get baptized against their will, so that I can have the marriage in the church because my parents told me I had to. You guys know, we've heard this before. We priests, we deal with this all the time, right? And by the time they get to us, it's too late. And I'm going to let you in a little secret. We priests, we hate doing those baptisms. We don't hate baptisms, but we hate doing baptisms of convenience, where we feel that we're administering a sacrament to a person who doesn't want it because the poor schmuck happens to marry an Orthodox girl or an Orthodox guy, and they're forced into a bad situation. Why? Because the Orthodox person didn't know what they wanted in the first place, and now they're stuck in a bad situation. Okay? So I'm just keeping it real. Okay, I'm just telling you what it is, because some of you might be in relationships already, and some of you might not be in relationships already. Some of you might be dealing with this right now. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just saying that you got to go all the way back to the beginning and say, okay, who am I? Vienna said that. Who am I as an Orthodox Christian? What are my values? What do I want in my life? And then I go out and I seek out a mate who wants the same things. I don't just date for fun. Why would I even do that? So I can have heartbreak in 2 months? Why? Why? When I was in high school, like end of high school, and before I went to university, it's like I didn't bother dating any non-Orthodox women. Why? Not because I'm prejudiced, but what would be the point? It's not going to go anywhere for me. I want to become a priest. I have to marry an Orthodox person. That's off the list. There are plenty of people he can be attracted to. That's off the list. Why am I going to marry somebody that is not going to be compatible with my future lifestyle or with my current lifestyle in my faith? So I can like fall in love with them, and then like 2-3 months later or a year later, I have to break up with them because I realize it's not going to work. So we can have fun. It just creates trauma. It creates emotional problems. It creates trust issues down the road. All these problems that come from these kind of like casual relationships, which is pretty much the standard, not only in university culture, but also immediately afterwards, right? And to talk about the S word, okay, the S word, right? That's sex, so you guys know, all right? That also, and not to sound like extremely archaic or backwards, because I know like big surprise, an Orthodox priest is going to tell you in a church that you shouldn't be having sex before marriage, and 99.99% of all Orthodox Christians are doing that, premarital, right? But nobody ever talks openly. I don't hear priests talking openly, either in sermons or in discussions, on why that exists. And I'm not talking about like, because the church said so, or because we have to respect the sanctity of marriage, which of course we should. Nobody talks about like the psychological problems that come from it. Nobody talks about like the fact, the biochemical fact that the S word actually complicates things much more. And I'll give you an example. And this is more for the ladies, but you know what's for the guys too, right? But I say it more for the ladies, because the ladies are usually in the more vulnerable position, okay? I'll give you an example that I've heard many, many, many times over 20 years. Young lady comes to me and says, Father, I'm dating a guy. I really like him, but he has some flaws. I'm like, oh, really? What kind of flaws? Well, you know, like he has a little bit of an anger issue sometimes, and he likes to gamble sometimes, and likes to drink sometimes. But you know, like, so I don't know if I love him, but but I really like him, and you know, I don't know if I should stay with him. I'm on that, you know, I'm trying to discern. Right? I'm like, okay, I was thinking like red flags, right? But and then the same girl will come back and say, he wants to sleep with me. I'm like, big surprise. He's a guy. And should I? I'm like, no, don't do that. Why not? I'm like, okay. So I explain. It's like, trust me, it's not going to be good. It's going to change your perception of the whole relationship, things like that. Do they listen? What do you guys think? No, they don't listen. And then 3 months later, or maybe sometimes a couple weeks later, they come back. You know what they say? We're in love. Oh, it's amazing. The relationship is amazing.
When it's good, it's good.
It's like, we're in love. We're going to get married. This is the person for me. I'm like, wait. 3 weeks ago, you were telling me there's some character flaws. They're not important. I'm in love. It's the best guy ever. And we're going to be together forever. Then a week goes by, and he dumps her. And then she comes back devastated, the poor girl, and she says, I don't know what happened. I said, okay, I can tell you what happened. Okay? So in your brain, there's something called dopamine. It's a chemical. I thought I'd be talking about the fathers in the church, right? But the fathers knew this as well. It's not about dopamine, but they understood the effects. There's a thing called dopamine, right? And dopamine, and where's Dr. Frank? Is he here? Did you leave? Is he here? He left. The baby's crying. We had a doctor in the house. Any other doctors in the house? No? Any biology majors? No? You have dopamine, right? And dopamine gets released both when you're intimate, but also when you experience genuine love. Can anybody catch the problem? Right? So, a lot of times, intimacy, physical intimacy, creates the illusion of love, or what we perceive, especially when we've never felt it before. It creates the illusion of love. So where you thought you were clear-headed, and you thought, I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to discern, even with prayer, even if I'm a churchgoer, I'm trying to figure out, is this person for me? Is this person somebody I can give my life to? Is this person, on the same wavelength of me, on the same page as me? I'm not sure yet. You ain't going to figure it out if you sleep together. You're probably going to get pushed in the wrong direction because it's going to mask the problems. You're going to lose your discernment, and you're going to get sucked into the whole romantic aspect of it, right? That will wear off with time, but a lot of times it's too late. Often it's too late. And now you have bad relationship problems, you've broken up, now you have regret, you have resentments, you have all these problems, then you start racking up these type of experiences because people don't learn and they repeat the same thing over and over again because they have self-loathing, all these kind of things, right? And so there's like a lot of psychological, emotional, and sometimes physical damage that happens from casual relationships. So the church is not stupid, and the church is not just trying to be a prude or saying, don't enjoy your life, don't go out, whatever. The church is trying to protect you all, women number one, but men too, because men also suffer the damage, but they don't show it because of the culture that we have, but the men also suffer these problems. And then what happens is that by the time you do get to marriage, let's say you do find that right person, and they're a genuinely good person, and they're genuinely a good Orthodox Christian, let's say, and they're the person that God has put in your path, and it's time to marry them. And then you have problems, and you wonder, well, why do I have problems? Because I have a bunch of emotional, psycho-spiritual baggage in my head from the previous relationships that I can never forget. And now all those demons are in there. And now they're always going to be there. And we play the comparison game. These are evil things, right? But we put ourselves in these positions. So I don't mean to like belabor this point, but I think it's a point that needs to be belabored a bit, especially at your age group, right? Because I see it, and I can tell you, like, we deal with it all the time as priests. And it's like probably maybe one, if not the number one issue, maybe the number one or two issue of our generation, right? There's a lot of problems that come from that, and the church in her wisdom knows this, and is not trying to say there's a rule. The rule is the priest gives you a blessing. Now it's okay. Before the blessing, it's not okay. And we can rationalize a lot of things, but in the end, the damage is there. And that's why less and less people are getting married now. They're getting married much later because they have commitment issues. Divorce is up. All these problems are up because people have lost that whole idea of like what a sacred relationship is. And it's not just about the S word. It's about the whole package, the whole thing. So coming back to it, to kind of bring it all holistically together, it's about, dating with intention and with purpose. And if it's not there, and if that person cannot fulfill that role, don't do it. There's no point even starting it. Why even damage yourself in that way? Wait for the appropriate person who will be compatible for you. Don't settle, male or females. Don't settle. You're better than that. And, look for people who are compatible with you in the spiritual way first, and then everything else will fall into place.
Just literally one single thing to add to that is you have to really, really ask yourself what it is that you are getting out of those casual relationships, because we have a tendency to think it's harmless, right? And it's very obviously not harmless. You really have to look inside and say, okay, why do I need that? Why do I need to feel like that is helping me move along in this relationship? Even if it's not about the relationship, because a lot of times it's not, why do I need that myself? Why do I need him to say that to me or to go down that path? Why do I need that validation or that attention? Why do I need to go brag to my friends about what happened? Whatever position you're coming from, you really have to ask what it is inside of yourself, and then commence the process of spiritually healing what that looks like, because we cannot reiterate enough that it's not harmless, and that you're going to see the impacts not only to yourself if you never see this person again, but God forbid this is the right person for you and now you're going into it with all of these issues like Father Ted said.
One more thing for the ladies. Ladies, I'm giving you pearls here. Write it down. Okay. When it comes back to the S word, okay? I'm not trying to harp on it, but trust me, I'm trying to protect all of you here. I hate to say it, but the way a man treats you before marriage, and the way, not only when it comes to intimacy, but all things, the way they treat you, what they ask of you, their patience, their respect for you, these are all indicators of what they're going to be like when you're married, and worse. And I always say worse because when you get married, you learn more about the good and more about the bad of another human being. Everything expands, good and bad, right? It just doesn't get better, right? And so if your partner or your boyfriend or girlfriend are not patient with you, or do not respect boundaries, or are not on the same page now, or they're manipulating you and pressuring you to do things that you're not ready for, what do you think is going to happen after the marriage if you give in now? It's going to get worse. The manipulation will grow and grow and grow and grow. So that's just, it's an indicator. It's an indicator. So again, it's like, this is kind of like I hate to say that this is the litmus test, especially for females, but it is. It's a big one. If the guy loves you, he loves you no matter what. That's the way it is. And if he's going to walk because of one thing, there's a door. If the relationship question and the intimacy question is the number one, or number two, or number one and two. What's the second one, or the other one that's equal? This is, I would say, it's secularism. And I know people talk about this all the time. It's like it's Orthodox people's indifference to faith. And I know that doesn't sound like a cool answer, but it's like, it's everywhere. So how does that manifest? It manifests like, I just don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It's like what Vienna says, like God's over here. Mm-hmm. He's like in the corner. He's on the shelf. He's on my Greek shelf or my Serbian shelf. He's like my cultural shelf. Yeah. And I'll go Christmas and Easter, and I'll pay my dues. Like I'll go do the things I need to do to check off the list. But I have no engagement whatsoever with my faith. And this is a problem because then people, priests again, like we shouldn't say this, but we do. It's like you got the hatch match dispatch, which means when you're born you come to church, when you're married you come to church, when you die you come to church. And maybe if you have kids we'll see you, right? And everything else in between is irrelevant for those people. And they will do everything. I'm not saying they like a us versus them thing, but this is just the reality. And this is a lot of our people, most of our people who are baptized Orthodox Christians. It's like this. I come to the church to do my cultural obligation. Like I get married, my parents don't like I get married, Okay. So you go get married, right? And you go through you pay your dues and whatever, and the priest doesn't even meet with me, and it's our fault too. And we go through the motions and we marry you, and we don't see you again, right? And then you get pregnant, you have a kid, and then they show up for the 40-day baby blessing because the told them they had to, but the parents don't care. So they just show up there. A lot of times, increasingly enough now, the father's not even there for the 40-day baby blessing. Think about that. Just the mother shows up. The father's like doing something else, right? Okay, so we do that. And then we do the baptism, right? And then you meet with them for the baptism. And then you try to teach them and you say, okay, why are you baptizing your kids, right? Oh, we make them Orthodox. I'm like, yeah, but you don't go to church. So why are you baptizing your kids? Oh, because you tocalo, we gotta make them, make them Christian. I'm like, are you gonna bring the kids to church? Are they gonna commune? Like, why buy a gym membership if you're not going to work out? Right? Oh, yeah. And then what happens is usually they'll lie to you. So they'll promise a bunch of things, and then you'll never see them again. And then when the next baby comes, like 2-3 years later, they'll come and they'll do the same thing again. And we don't say anything. Why? Because we're too nice. As priests, like we don't want to say, right? So these are just examples of the symptomology of secularism and how people are just basically, they're not really Orthodox, they're just Orthodox on paper, or they think they're Orthodox forever, but there's a disconnect between what it actually means to be Orthodox and what it is. And it's not just the young people, it's a generational problem because the parents are at fault too, because how many times do I have like young people who are, for example, living together out of wedlock, right? So now they're not in communion with the church, they can't take communion, right? And their parents told them to go do it. The yaya told them to go do it. And I got the grandmother or the mother calling me up to yell at me, why will you not commune my daughter? And I'm like, well, this and this and this. Oh, come on, Father, that's so outdated. So it's a generational problem. You have the grandparents and the parents who are saying these things to the kids and raising them to be secular, right? So it's a lot of problems going on, right? Secularism has kind of like, and there's priests who are secular too. I'm not going to, I can get into that if you want, but there's priests who are very modern and lefty, and it's not that bad. It's not that bad, Vienna. It's okay to love each other. It's okay. I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to tell you what's up, right? I'm not going to ask questions of godparents. I'm not going to vet them. Just pay your membership. So we're at fault too. Pay your membership. As priests. Sorry, I know this is being recorded. I shouldn't be saying these things. I know. Priests are not going to hear this. I'm telling you the truth, right? It's like, if we don't ask questions and we don't tell people the truth, how are they going to know?
If God knows I've repented.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. To stay on theme, like this is like wanting to get fit, buying a gym membership and staying home and thinking that's going to be your solution. And for me personally, where it always comes down to is thinking that you are enough to help yourself. And that's really where I ran into problems with my faith, was thinking that I can control that part of my life too. The reason that we go to confession is so that we can develop a relationship with a spiritual father who, like a doctor, will be able to help us in our spiritual illness, provide us with the right medication, give us the right instruction. Same thing, back to the gym analogy, like a trainer, right? You want somebody that's going to help you, that's going to correct you, that's going to tell you what you are doing well and what you need to keep, cut out of your life, and sort of that process of actually changing. Going to confession is not just about being forgiven and airing out, the laundry list of things you did wrong this week. It's about actually embarking on the journey of transformation and being changed by the mystery of confession.
That was a really good answer. I'm not surprised. I'm just impressed. It's good. That's the one of three things that confession does. Mm-hmm. It's the most important. So yeah, it's spiritual diagnosis, right? So in the Orthodox Church, it's not like the Catholic Church where you're going to be punished, right? In the sense that I'm not going to a judge to say my sins, and then the judge is going to give me a penance because I've done something bad. Mm-hmm. It's going to a doctor to give my symptoms, and the doctor is there. He's not perfect. The priest also goes to confession. Just like a doctor can have cancer, but he can still diagnose the cancer, right? So we're trained to look at the symptoms and then diagnose and say, I think this is the problem. Okay, what kind of spiritual medication can we take to get better, not to punish? So that's the number one misconception about confession. And if you lie, well, what happens if you lie to the doctor? Like if you go to the doctor and you have 10 symptoms, but you only give 7, because for some reason you're ashamed, or you don't want to talk about it, whatever, and you don't give them the full symptoms. What could happen if that happens? Anybody know? Sorry? Misdiagnosis. Yeah. If the doctor doesn't have all the facts, the doctor doesn't know all the symptoms, he might misdiagnose you. And this happens a lot with spiritual direction. People go to confession, they try to manipulate the priest, they won't say everything. Granted, they can be afraid, and that's fine. It takes time to establish. But sometimes people chronically do this. The priest will give advice that it will be the wrong advice based on what the person is giving them. This is not to absolve the priest of making mistakes, but you can only go on what people are telling you. It's the honor system, right? And so the priest might give the wrong advice, or maybe it's not the most appropriate advice, or maybe it's misguided advice. And then the person goes and does that, and it doesn't work. And they say, see, it doesn't work. I'm not going to confession again, right? So being honest as much as we can with the strength, as much strength that we have to be honest, is very important. But number 2 is, it's not just spiritual direction and diagnosis. There's also a religious dimension to it, and that is reconciliation with the church. So what people don't realize is that when we sin, like what is confession? Confession is not just, I go to the priest, he's a doctor, he diagnoses, and I get better. It's also that when I sin, I am effectively, slowly cutting myself off from the worshiping body of Christ, which is all of you. So there's no such thing as private sin. What do I mean by that? Every sin that I commit, myself, whether it's in action, it's in my mind, in my heart, whatever, it's all social. Why? Because it may not be like I insulted Vienna. Okay, that's a public kind of sin. I hit you, I stole from you, I said something evil to you, right? But even the things that I think in my head that are sins that you guys don't even know about or will never know about, they do affect my personality. And indirectly, they make me a worse person, and eventually that will spill over into my relationships. So all sin is social. So the concept is this: we're all baptized into the same body of Christ. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. When you fight with a family member, what happens? There's a problem. There's a distance. So you got to make up. You got to reconcile, right? If you don't make up, what happens? The relationship breaks down. That's how divorce happens. That's how friendships don't get mended, right? They end. So in the same way, if I never confess, I am creating a chasm between myself and everybody else. And when I sin, I owe all of you an apology. All of you. Regardless if you know me or not. But I can't confess to all of you because, let's face it, it would be a massive scandal. Right? All of us. We can't handle that. So what did the church do in her wisdom over the centuries? The priest who represents the local community begins to hear on behalf of all of you. Not on behalf of God. On behalf of all of you. So I got to sit there and listen to all the problems so you guys don't have to. Okay? So we have to take it all on and listen to all the horrors and all the problems and all the dysfunctions and everything, right? And we hear on behalf of the community, and we help guide, and we also forgive on behalf of the community. So when the priest puts the petrechili, you know, the thing that we wear, the long thing, the shiny thing with the tassels at the bottom, which represent all the souls, the people that hang around our necks, when we put that over the person's head to do the prayer, it is symbolizing the priesthood, which is it's the whole community hugging you. It's the whole community saying, it's okay, come back into the fold. We're all a family, it's all right, we're all sinners, right? So you're being reconciled to the worshiping community. If you don't do that, how are you going to receive Holy Communion and be one with the body if you hate people, right? So that's the second part. So it's spiritual therapy, right? Like, and healing. It is reconciliation of the community, and it's also cathartic, like Diana said. It's like you're trusting at least one other human being in the world, where you can tell them everything, even the things you can't even tell your spouse sometimes. You can't even tell your parents. You can't even say it to the mirror, but you can say it to one other person, and to have that person not judge you, but to say, you know what, it's okay. And to accept you as you are, that's extremely therapeutic. And if you can't do that with at least one other human being, how can you ever forgive people? If you've never felt that type of forgiveness, that unconditional love, right? So it's all those things wrapped in one that makes confession essential and not an option. The reality is, less than 5% of our people confess. Statistically speaking, less than 5% of all Orthodox Christians. Because most people think it's not essential, it's not needed. I'll do myself, I'll WebMD it. Next. Sorry.
Wait, just one more thing on that. It's like when you're going to the doctor, you recognize that you are sick, right? And you are going with the intentions to be made better. That's the number one thing. It's the same with confession, is that you're not going just for the sake of doing it, because that's a waste of your time and everybody's time. It's going in there with the intention to be healed and transformed by the sacrament, right? Making sure that you're going in with the right reasons. You're going to actually be healed, as opposed to just going for the sake of doing it. Why, as Orthodox, should we not believe in the evil eye? Should we believe in luck?
So, that's not true. I did a video on this here. It's an old one on my YouTube channel. It's actually the most viewed video of all of them ever in 10 years, the evil eye one, right? So we do believe in the phenomenon of the evil eye as a concept of somebody wishing hateful things, like Maya, right? This does exist. Why? It sounds like archaic, it sounds medieval, it sounds like it's not real, but we believe in it because if we believe that there's a spiritual realm that is overlapping the physical realm, it's not somewhere else, it's here everywhere, and if there are angels and demons everywhere, then there's a spiritual reality. Some people are more attuned to it than others. Most of us are not, because we're very secular. Our minds are darkened and we're focusing on all this stuff and not on the spiritual. But people who focus and who are more spiritual, they actually see things and they have experiences. That's why the saints have experiences. So if there are angels and demons everywhere trying to influence us, and if saints can commune with other saints, so like St. Paisios, when he was alive, he was praying, he would see visions of saints and things like that, and he would also be persecuted by demons, but he has interactions. So if saints and holy people can have interactions with holy things, it also stands to figure that people who are not holy can commune with other things. So it sounds like Hollywood, it's not, but it's possible. And so the concept of somebody doing witchcraft, wishing evil things on you, things like that, it's there. And we have a prayer for that called Vaskania. There is an actual prayer for the evil eye that a priest reads. That's all. Or do your prayers at home. Do your Koboskini, do your Our Father, do the prayer rope, do all those things, right? What we don't believe in is the blue eyes, the little blue thingies, the amulets, right? That's Persian. That's Persian pagan. It passed through the Turks into the Greeks. Greeks love it. They got it hanging everywhere. Or the hand, you know, the hand, the blue hand. The Jews have it. It's a Middle Eastern thing, right? The blue eye. The amulet, don't mess with that kind of stuff, because that's a pagan symbol that is contrary to the cross. The cross is the only symbol that we live by. So when we pin those other, and people do it all the time, they bring it with the babies when they baptize. I don't let them put on the baby. I'm like, you want to put a target on your child? That's not going to attract the demons. It's not going to repel them, because these are demonic things. Would you put a pentagram on your child? A 666? Oh no, that's bad. I'm like, what do you think the blue eye is? The blue eye is not a Christian symbol, and we think that by doing these things, we're helping them. We're not. We're dividing our allegiances, right? We're saying, oh yeah, I believe in the cross, but let's also do this magic stuff over here too to like keep us safe. No, it's either one or the other. Which one has power, right? So people do these things. The blue eye is no good. The yaya, yawning, or has blue eyes, or the secret prayer that the one yaya knows and nobody else knows in the village, and you have to go to her to ksamatiash you because nobody else works. No, I don't care. I've heard the stories. Trust me, Father, this woman's prayer works. Of course, we should pray for each other. That's awesome. Everybody pray for each other. But like this whole thing, like she learned it from a person of the opposite sex, and you cannot say it out loud because it will lose its power. All these weird, drop the oil in the water, and if it disperses, you have the eye. Reading the coffee grinds. All these things are really dangerous. Why are they dangerous? Because you're inviting the occult into your home, and then you're starting to put your faith in those things. And then you wonder why you're putting your faith even more in those things. And I notice that people who really believe in those things, they really believe in those things a lot. Sorry if I'm offending anybody in the room. I'm getting some strange looks right now. All right? But you get more sucked into that world, right? Of like reading the coffee, the tea leaves, all these kind of things that people do because they really, really believe in these things. And while you're doing all those things, you're not really doing the things you should be doing, which is like taking communion, going to confession, going to church, all those kind of things, right? So.
It's aligned with the conversation on like, where do we give our credit and where do we believe our protection comes from? Because I feel like I have this conversation at least once a week when it comes to like astrology believers or, like all the examples that Father Ted gave. And it really, to me, it's like, why even waste your time? Like, it's not harmless, like we talked about. Why even bring that into your life? Why even, if we recognize the cross as the most important and powerful protection that we could have in our lives, why would we give credit anywhere else and think that anything else could protect us from any sort of bad that is in our lives? In the past, before understanding the church's teaching about chastity, and now they want to honor their faith moving forward, can they still choose to wait for marriage in their next relationship, and how should they approach that spiritually?
Question.
Fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, it's all, you kind of answered. I know it's a question, but the question kind of answers it, right? It's like, yes, the fathers of the church, the consensus of the fathers of the church is that when we use the word virginity, it doesn't have a narrow meaning of physical virginity only. Parthenia in Greek, which is the word virginity, it is an all-encompassing word that speaks as much about mindset as it does about physical purity, right? So today, we've unfortunately reduced it to, have you slept with somebody or not? That's not what Parthenia is. It's part of it, but it's not the whole thing. Parthenia, it's like, it is the whole virgin mindset, like it's an idea of purity, of chastity, of like trying to focus on the spiritual, trying to dedicate our lives to God and to put things in a certain order, right? And align ourselves with the will of God. This is chastity. And I truly believe, and the fathers say this as well, that it's irrelevant. Even if you've slept with people, if you've so-called lost your virginity, you can regain your virginity through prayer and fasting and vigilance. I know people who have done these things and they've lived amazing, beautiful lives after having fallen into certain sins, and they become much holier than other people, right? Look at St. Mary of Egypt as an example, right? But that's an extreme, right? But St. Mary who was like floating over the waters, right? So, these things should not discourage us. There is no sin that we can't come back from, right? There's no such thing as, I am scarred for life. I am never going to be pure enough. I'm marked for life because I've done anything. God can heal everything, and His mercy is greater than anything we've ever done in our lives.
It's really the same thing that we've kind of touched on one just now, where we're talking about, maybe it's not something that you've done historically, but it's something that now you have the conviction to do. And it's not something that you're always able to just start doing it, right? When it comes to now taking fasting and preparation for communion more seriously. Why is fasting important? It's the same thing that where we say, it's one thing to understand and know your faith, and then it's another thing to put it in action and to actually live by it. Fasting is one of the easiest ways to understand how weak we are as people and as Christians. If you've ever seen me hungry, it's not a pretty sight. We are so vulnerable when we are hungry, and we are so vulnerable when we are called to make these sacrifices, but that's really where the opportunity is to strengthen our reliance on Christ, not only mentally, but physically as well, for whatever reason it is that, or whatever the occasion is that you are fasting for.
Yeah, it's about slavery.
I was going to say that.
You did touch on it. It's slavery. Anyone know what I'm talking about? What slavery are we talking about? Yes? No, not slavery to God. It's not where I was going with this. Yeah, like it's people don't think about it like this. Everybody knocks fasting, right? We're in a fasting season right now. I know 99.9% of all the Orthodox Christians do not fast. They think it's passé, right? I don't need it to be a good person. We've heard all the things, right? No, it's very, very simple, right? Let's say, forget about the big 40-day fasting seasons, which can be daunting sometimes, okay? Let's just take all year round, Wednesdays and Fridays. 2 out of 7, not a lot, okay? Not a big ask. So, if it's a Wednesday, like it is today, and I can't say no to a hamburger, right? Obviously. But let's say I can't say no to a hamburger, okay? That means the hamburger controls me. I'm a slave. I'm not free. People think they're free. Like society says, do what you want, when you want, what you want, whenever, that's freedom. That's not freedom. That's complete servitude to every passion you have, every appetite you have to fulfill it right away. And then and that's what it's called hedonism. It's a hedonistic lifestyle. So I want to drink what I want to drink. I want to have sex when I want to have sex. I want to eat when I want to eat. I want to enjoy. I want to sleep when I want to sleep. I want to do everything that I want to do. If you do that, then you're an animal. That's what animals do. They act on instinct. Did you ever notice that animals can't fast? They don't have the ability to do it because they don't have free will. Animals act on instinct. That's why they don't have a soul like we have a soul, a rational soul. So we can choose not to eat, which is a miracle, because you're going against your physical nature. You guys ever think about that? You actually perform a miracle every time you fast? Because you're going against the physical need to eat, right? It's the most basic thing. So every time you do that, you are emancipating yourself from the passions. You are saying that this and this is more powerful than the physical. I tell my body what to do, not the other way around. And you do it again and again and again, so that you are master of your body, of the temple. You are the custodian of your temple. The temple doesn't tell you what to do, right? So it's about freeing yourself. And ironically, everybody on the outside says, oh, the church puts all these restrictions on you, you're a slave, it's the opium of the masses, blah, 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 all these things, right? It's literally the inversion of what it's actually doing. No, the church is training you to set you free. It's the same thing with exercise. Why are you going to the gym and doing push-ups and this and that, and lifting weights? It's so hard. I'm like, yeah, but it's freeing me because I am conquering my weakness. I'm becoming strong through adversity. That's why fasting is extremely important. Lost art. Nobody's doing it anymore. And it's really affecting us spiritually. Right? Exposed to secular ideas that challenge the Orthodox faith, like the idea that abortion is good or that we all evolved from bacteria.
When exposed to these secular ideas, it's about what's inside of you. And that's really where you're going to find your strength, is when you are able to approach any external circumstance, good or bad, especially in the world we live in now, where up is down and left is right. It's about your mindset. And the number one thing that informs your mindset is who you are as a Christian and what is Christ's will for my life, and how can I take that purpose that goes far beyond anything the world could tell me, and understand that is how I'm going to approach every situation. It doesn't matter if it's the abortion question or science versus faith. It comes down to how you approach things and what is making up your mindset, because when Christ is the one inside of you, you have strength to approach these sorts of situations, right? And it comes down to really that word, guard your faith. You have to nourish it. You have to take care of it. You have to develop it. It's like a seed, right? You have to invest in it and make sure that it is being cherished in your life. That way it can be strengthened so that you can go out and approach any situation with that being the center. That's what I would say.
You have to know what you're getting into before you go there, right? So if you're well informed, I'll give you an example for my children. I have 3 children. I have twins who are almost 14. They're in middle school. They're just finishing grade 8. And I have a boy and a girl, and I have another boy who's 10 who's going to go into middle school. And a lot of people tell me, oh, did you put them in private school? Did you homeschool them? Did you put them in the Greek in Metamorphosis I did, which is down the street? I'm like, no, because A, I can't afford it. And second of all, I can't afford it. Well, contrary to popular belief, guys, the priests are not swimming in money. They say, well, where'd you send your kids? I'm like, I sent my kids to public school. Are they okay? I'm like, yeah, of course they're okay. Why? Because I'm an active parent. Because I teach my children, I pre-program my kids. I don't deprogram them. I'm not reactionary as a parent. That's the problem. It's like if parents are reactionary, they don't know their faith, and they wait for Sunday school to teach. Good luck on that one, right? I'm not knocking Sunday school, but I mean, if you're waiting for the Sunday school to do your job as a parent, you're gonna have problems, right? Or if you're waiting for the youth group or any of these things, like see your kids like for 40 minutes once a week, it's not gonna do anything. You have to teach your kids properly. So my kids, they go to like the woke schools, and they're very woke, but my kids identify it, they know. They're not stupid. And they come home and say, yeah, you should see what they're doing here, but they don't buy into it because they know what their faith is, and they knew it before. So when you go to university, you gotta know what you're gonna get. Sometimes you suck it up so you can get the grade, which sucks, because that's the game, right? Or don't go to that university. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's like, don't go to that university, which is an option. People don't want to think that because like, oh, I want to stay home because my mom wants me to be home. And they're not gonna pay for me to go to the States or go somewhere else, right? That's true. There's financial problems. There's restrictions. There's lots of things that we can't do because we're limited, right? But if you're not limited, go somewhere else. Vote with your feet. Don't support the institutions that are teaching horrible things.
Think about that when I feel that sense of heat coming inside of me, whether it's about the faith, whether it's a personal attack, whatever it is. Jesus Christ stood quiet as they were saying not only the worst things they've ever said to a person about a person, but as someone with the authority to snap a finger and set them all aflame, right? So he didn't feel that way, and so he, as our example, is the one that we look to, especially when it comes to being under attack, and that's what the blessing of being a Christian is knowing that Jesus himself understands where we are in those situations. He's felt that way. He knows where we're coming from. So that's the other thing. But, just going back to the other one for a quick second, it's not always an option to just drop out of school. I know. But I'm playing devil's advocate. Okay, so it's not always an option to drop out of school, but the way that I approach these kinds of situations is there is always an opportunity to strengthen your relationship with Christ through these kinds of circumstances, right? Every single challenge that presents itself, whether it's in a class, whether it's an interaction or a conflict with somebody specifically, there's always an opportunity there to strengthen your faith and to bring Jesus into that situation. So like I said, making sure that he's involved in your heart and in your mind at all times, because it's going to allow you to approach things very differently. It's okay to sit there quietly and have a little moment with Jesus in your heart and say, I know that this is not where I am, and I know that this is not right, and you don't have to be the one that takes a stand and makes a riot over anything, but it's just understanding in your heart, that sometimes it's not an option to take a stand or to drop out of school, and it's getting really hard. And that's like the number one question that always comes up is, okay, well, where do I draw the line in my life between what's going on in the secular world and my personal faith? And it's about keeping Jesus inside of your heart at all times, keeping the church not only in your life on Sundays, but taking it with you everywhere that you go.
If you're well acquainted with your own sins, how hard is it to not care what people say? If somebody comes up to me and they insult me or they say things that are not true, my natural response, at least if I'm somewhat self-aware spiritually, is to say, yeah, that may not be true, but you missed this and this and this that I do. I do a lot of other bad stuff. Don't worry, I got lots. You can pick those things to say about me. So, it's always the ego. The ego is the root of everything. When we push down the ego, we destroy the ego, then none of these things will bother us at all. Even the things that are true. Because the things that are true, we will accept them. And things that are not true, but we care. I care about what people might think of me. Who cares? There's only one person that we have to care what thinks of us. That's it. So it's always a me problem. Always. Why can't a woman go into the sanctuary at the back of the church? It can. Have you guys ever been to the monastery in Bolton? Don't nuns go into the altar? Females go on the altar all the time. It's just, it looks taboo to us because the rule, what has become a cultural norm amongst, let's say, Greeks or Serbians, Ukrainians, whatever, people think it is a theological rule. The rule is not men go on the altar and women do not. It has nothing to do with men and women. The rule is no one goes into the altar unless they have a blessing to do so, to perform a spiritual, religious function. That's the rule. When I was at St. Constant Helen, my previous church, we had a neokorisa, Tiafani. She has a blessing from the bishop. She goes in and cleans the altar. She's a female, right? In Greece, this happens all the time, where it's a female neokorisa, not a neokoro, like the sacristan. Okay? A lot of our churches here, people don't pay attention. They won't see them, but they're in there. There's females. So it's not a female and male thing, right? It's just, it's also our fault too, but it's like we don't have female altar servers, but that's a practical issue. That's not a theological issue. It's a practical issue. You guys want to know why? So it's a gender thing in the sense that it's an attraction thing, right? What does that mean? It means that in the early church, they tried it out, right? So let's say you have a bunch of little kids, like prepubescent boys and girls, who are altar servers in the altar, males and females. What happens when they hit puberty? Yeah, right? Yeah, right? So what happens when they hit puberty? They're attracted to each other. And now we're in the altar, in the Holy of Holies, trying to serve in the Divine Liturgy, right? Then you're going to say, well, Father, to be fair and equitable, why not kick the boys out and have the girls in one Sunday and then swap them out? Okay, fair. You know why? Oh, sorry, I thought you put your hand up. It's just stretching. It's okay. It's a long night. So we do that. Okay, so now we have a bunch of pubescent girls or post-puberty girls who are young ladies now with an all-male priesthood in the altar. And even if everybody is completely kosher, what do you think the people are going to say? I'll tell you what they're going to say, because we're Greeks and we gossip. See, we don't think about these things, right? And we say, oh, that's so sexist, or that's what it's. No, it's not. It's just the church tried things out, trial and error over centuries, and saw what worked and what didn't work and what created scandal. And the church is not a place for the scandal. The church is a place to pray. So there's proper order, right? So because we have an all-male priesthood, right? I'm not going to get into the whole arguments about that, right? Because we'll be here all night. But we have an all-male priesthood, right? And so would it be appropriate to have young ladies in the altar and then people start accusing the priest or accusing the females? Goes both ways these days, right? Problems. Or do you allow the little girls to go and then as soon as they hit puberty, you kick them out of the altar, which would be traumatizing them because they were serving? So there's a lot of problems. And there's a reason why over centuries the church put rules in place not to discriminate against women. It was to basically protect the dynamics of the sexes and also to protect the dynamics of the ecclesiasma, the church congregation. Does that make sense? So it's not an issue of women are not good, women are dirty, women are unclean, all those things that you hear from the okay? It has nothing to do with that. Just so you know.
Need to eat with the goal of bulking up for the gym is wanting to get stronger and stronger, a frivolous pursuit. More specifically, what are the lines for these things?
I know the person who wrote this and they already have the answer. So anyways, okay.
What's the answer that you have?
Well, what will you be your answer? When you're bulking, Vienna.
Oh man. Okay. It's the same thing as everything. Is posting an Instagram picture bad, right? Like there are obviously lines to these things, mostly, but the answer is, what are your intentions? If you're bulking because you want to be jacked and you want to look like a professional bodybuilder with that single intention, okay, maybe we need to reassess why we're going to the gym in the first place, but it's like everything in our lives. Why do we do anything? Why do we seek validation on the way that we look? Male attention, female attention, whatever it is. Let's put God back as the reason why we do things, and then everything in our lives is going to change really quickly as to why.
Good answer. You know how I get past that whole thing when people ask me? Because a lot of people ask me questions like, you go to the gym and people are wearing what they're wearing, and it's like I'm in front of the mirror and I want to look good, and it's ego, it's pride, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, yes. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with working out. There's nothing wrong with doing any of those things because the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit and you should take care of it, right? So it's good to be healthy. It's good to be strong. It's good to be an athlete. There's nothing wrong with doing any of these things. You can be a bodybuilder. It's not a sin, right? But here's the litmus test. I tell them, when you go to the gym, what do you wear? Are you wearing like a big baggy sweater that nobody can see anything under? Because you could do that and still work out. You don't need to be wearing it's like skin tight, like showing everything, right? So that's the question. Because if you just go there and like wear a big, there are people that I know, they're wearing like big baggy like track suits and they're working out. No one sees what their physique is underneath because they're not there for that. They're actually there because they want to be healthy. They're not there to show off or to pick up or all the other things that people do at the gym, right? So that's the litmus test. What am I doing it for? When you see people at the gym or when you see yourself at the gym, you can tell what you're there to do. You can tell by how many times you look in the mirror. You tell what you're wearing. You tell how many selfies you take. Setting up the little tripods to work out. Like these stupid things, right? It's like those are all ego-driven things, right? If you're just going to work out, do it humbly, everything will be okay.
I feel like with any time I've asked myself this kind of question where it's like, is it a sin to specifically do this one thing? Oftentimes you know what the answer is, but also it's so much more than just the act or the thing itself. You have to actually ask yourself, and you're going to see a pattern in the way that I think about these things, is like, why am I doing this in the first place? And what is so wrong with me and my soul that is causing me to want to do this in the first place? So it's not just about the actual act or the sin itself. And same thing with confession. It's not just about the laundry list. It's about actually getting to the root cause of these things and what it is inside of me that feels the need to do it in the first place. So whether it's bulking, whether it's, social media or Instagram, your intentions are everything, but your intentions will change when your priorities change and your purpose changes in your life. If you are not in a position to get married, you have no business dating. But he also shares stories of his wife and him sharing a coffee because they could not afford a cup for both of them. How are we supposed to walk the fine line of recognizing our position in life without being a perfectionist as an Orthodox Christian? And what does it mean to be prepared for marriage? Should we dive in head first and figure things out as we go?
Yeah.
Like, what's your standard of ready? Like, what's your metric of perfection before you feel like you are in a position to engage in something like that? And I think that's really the secular influence in our concept of marriage and the purpose of relationships is thinking that you have to come prepared. You have to come with a certain amount of money. You have to come with, a certain level of success and these are the pressures that we put on ourselves long before we get there. When it comes to university, we're like, oh, we've got time to find a good job before we find a wife and get a house, and all of these plans we put in place that God probably laughs at, especially because nobody can buy a house anyways now. Just kidding. But it's really understanding what the purpose of being in a relationship and a marriage is to begin with, right? When we are doing things by God's design and for His purpose, the way that He intended this to be for us, it really, wipes clean our expectation of who we have to be in anything, in our faith, in our relationships. We really have to realign what our standard of success is and start going by what we read in Scripture and what we know God's will for our lives and our relationships are.
Good answer. As somebody who's married, sorry, I'm just bugging you. It's a good answer. I've been married almost 20 years, and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. Right? That's not a sob story. We're happy, and we got 3 kids. So we live like immigrants, and my 3 kids sleep in like one room together. I'm pretty sure it's illegal. But anyways, it's not according to building code. So I got married at 25 years old. My wife is a teacher, and I didn't have a job yet because I was going to be a priest. So there's no financial stability there. Got married, found a part-time job while I was a deacon for almost 2 years, and we just made it work. We were happy though. And so if you have your proper priorities in place, and then we picked up and got transferred to Winnipeg. And my wife lost her job because you're going to a different province, and you got to get recertified. And then for 6 years, she couldn't find work. And we had twins there. And we went to debt. And we came back here, and we've been in an apartment ever since. This is not a sad story for us. We have joy. Like, you don't need a lot of things in your life. You don't need a lot of things. You don't need stuff. All you need, as long as you love each other and you know what marriage is. What is the goal of marriage? The goal of marriage is not to accumulate lots of things. It's not to have multiple expectations from our spouse. It's to understand that we're both moving towards Christ. And if you understand that, you can weather every storm. You can, Father Josiah said it, you got one cup of coffee and you share it. That's beautiful. But you don't hate each other for it. You don't resent each other. My wife doesn't turn around at me and say, because of you, I lost my job, my career. And then I was set back for 10 years, whatever. She was. But she knew what she was getting into because she knew that I'm marrying a priest. I'm going to be presbytera. And we know, like, and interestingly enough, we were talking about dating, radical honesty on the first date. My first date with my wife, we went out like for coffee, and literally the first date I told her, and this was right out of high school. So I'm 18 and she's 19, she's a year older than me, right? And we're going to university. I said, I'm probably going to be a priest. It's going to be a hard life. You're probably going to have to leave your family and everything and go across the country or something like that. Can you handle that? That was the first date. She said yes. And thank God for that. But why would I hide that until like the third month or something? Why would I like not reveal that and waste my time? So I said, like, I go, I'm interested in you, you're interested in me. But if this is not what you want, no harm, no foul, we don't go on another date. That's it. Why waste time, right? So you have to be radically honest with, but the problem is that most of us either we don't know what we want or who we are in relationship to God and the church and ourselves, or we're afraid. We're afraid to reveal these things to other people because we're afraid of rejection. Both those things we have to get over. We have to get over those things very quickly if we want to actually have happiness in our lives and joy. But yeah, you can have nothing, but if you're with the right person, you have nothing together. It's great. You can cuddle. It's okay.
But not just on the idea of having, a certain amount of money or certain things, feeling prepared in that sense, like in what the worldly standards are for what is required of us, but also, the question says, as a perfectionist and Orthodox Christian, our lives as Christians, as individuals, are about refining ourselves constantly, right? Constantly changing, improving, and doing things that are going to be beneficial for us in the long run. And so when you are looking for a relationship, you have to find somebody that is also doing that for themselves, but now is going to be willing to do that with you and for you as well. And it's, I don't know because I'm not married, as Father Ted pointed out, but it is, in relationships, I'm married to Jesus, in any relationship, friendships or romantic relationships, there is no bigger magnifying glass to your own issues, right? And especially in a marriage where it's the closest person to you possible that is going to shine every single insecurity or every single shortcoming that you have. And when you are working towards a spiritual benefit or spiritual growth, that is really difficult. So that's where it comes to actually going through that process of refining ourselves together with that other person that will be helpful, willing to do that. And if you are taking your faith seriously, to the point earlier about how do we know if a person's doing the right thing, if you are taking your faith seriously and you're coming to church every Sunday, you're taking communion, you're fasting, the Orthodox life calls us to a lot of daily decisions and sacrifices that not a lot of people make. So like Father Ted said, this is something to get out of the way in conversation really early, because it's like a daily cross that we pick up as Orthodox Christians that if somebody's not aligned, it's just going to get much heavier.
If you get a chance to, and there's a shameless plug, but if you get a chance to go on my channel, go to one of the earlier videos, like the really, really early ones, like far back, the really bad ones. And it's called Soulmates, where I interviewed Dr. Al Rossi at St. Vladimir Seminary. He was my professor, and he's a psychologist and a marriage counselor. And we talk about, do we have a version of soulmates like the Orthodox? And I don't want to give it away, what we say, but he says something really brilliant. He says that we don't believe in soulmates, that your mate is not soulmate. I'm like, oh, Dr. Al, I go, what's the Orthodox equivalent? And he says, your mate is your sandpaper. Your mate is your sandpaper. Yeah. It's like, you're like two rocks, jagged rocks when you're single, you're set in your ways, you think you know something about yourself, and the other person is there not to co-sign your behavior or to agree with everything or to be the same as you and all that kind of stuff that you see on stupid movies. It's no, there's supposed to be conflict, good conflict, not really bad conflict. The other person is supposed to be like your sandpaper, and the friction smooths you both out. And if you look at those pebbles at the bottom of the riverbed, they're all smooth and round. Why are they smooth and round? Because for thousands of years they've been rolling in the water, and the friction has smoothed them out, so now they fit together perfectly. Jagged rocks don't fit together, but pebbles do. And the whole point of marriage, one of it is that you want a mate, a spouse, who's going to challenge you. They're not going to tell you everything is okay. They're not going to basically co-sign all your behaviors. That you don't want the same thing as you. That's narcissistic.
Also,
right?
Somebody that's like, there's such a dangerous misconception where it's like, well, I'm waiting for somebody that's going to accept me 100% of the way that I am. And that's not even how we follow Christ. We don't come to Christ and say, oh, I'm perfect the way I am now. Great, don't have to change a thing. That's what the purpose of a spouse is to go through that process of making sure that we are, smoothing like pebble. Become a pebble.
Yeah, it's like Christ with a sinful woman in the Gospel of John. They bring him the woman who was caught in adultery, right? And, he says the famous thing, whoever's without a sin cast the first stone, right? So they all go away because they're all shamed, right? And then he goes to the lady and he picks her up and says, is there anybody, where are your accusers? Is anybody left to accuse you? And she says, nobody, Lord. He goes, then I don't accuse you either, right? He doesn't say, I don't accuse you. Go in adultery again. No, he says, go, but don't sin again. So he elevates her. He meets her where she's at, but then he challenges her. He says, you got to change your life. You can't just continue doing what you're doing, right? So this is the thing. We need somebody who's not going to be the same as us. We don't want to marry a mirror. That's why you shouldn't go on dating apps. Don't go on dating apps. You know why? Because dating app algorithms, when you fill one out, I've never filled one out, but I know what they do, okay, I'm just saying, is that it's basically a personality test. And you fill it out, and the algorithm basically looks for compatibility, which basically means it tries to find other people like you. How narcissistic is that? Like, I already have parameters of who I want to be with, and I want them to be like me. Same interests, same things. I even want this certain height. I want this hair color. It's like the ultimate narcissism, right? Right? It's like, no matter, that's why these things don't work. One person in a million found somebody and they're happy. Okay, right? Right? Because if they worked, then it wouldn't be a business model. People wouldn't be paying for it. So over and over again. So don't do that. Like, go to your church and find somebody. Let the priest pick for you. Just saying. Change of perspective. Thank you. Great question. And we're going to end it there. Do a closing prayer. Yeah? Or you want to say a few things? Or
On behalf of all of us, we want to express our heartfelt gratitude for the inspiring, thoughtful, and uplifting discussion you offered tonight. Your words have guided us, strengthened us, and reminded us of the beauty and depth of our Orthodox faith. We truly hope that this will not be the last time we gather for something like this, and that similar events may continue to bring our young people together in Christ. We would once again like to thank the two organizers of tonight's gathering, the Greek Students Association of the University of Toronto and Met Youth Prophet Elias, for their dedication, their love for the youth, and the wonderful work that has made this evening possible. May God bless their efforts and their service to the church.